Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you're joining me. Welcome to another video. This is the first of a long build series. I'm going to be looking at the Mini Velo and customizing my own one. I've been looking on the market and there's lots of different frame sets available, but they're all pretty decidedly old school geometry, really steep head angles, really steep seat tube angles, and the whole thing just doesn't really work for me. They're a little bit too short, a little bit too geared up for the urban environment. I'm looking for a mini velo that I'm going to take off-road primarily. I don't live in a town, I live pretty remotely, so we'll see how that goes. So in this build series, we're going to look at ordering a custom frame, picking my own geometry. We're also going to look at the build components I'm going to use for this build. We're going to build up the bike, including wheel sets, all from scratch, never done it before. Then we're going to go and take it for some ride reviews. Might even try a couple trail centres, some cross country, see how I get on. Maybe I've made an appalling choice with the geometry, or maybe it was a good choice. We'll see. So, join me for the series. Let's see how we go on.
So, to understand why I'm going custom, let's take a look at what's on the market. There's lots of little mini velo steel frames, and they all look pretty cool. You know, things like this, the Kawaha Perfecto. So, this one's from Japan, I believe. You can't buy direct, you need to buy through one of their distributors. And it's an import to the UK. But I think the major issue with a lot of these frames is they've got really steep head angles, sort of 72, 74 degrees, and really slack seat angles, which is sort of 71, 72 degrees, which I don't think is great for cycling off-road, in my opinion. And they're all also a little bit too short. As well as that, these all seem to have quick release front rear, which I really don't like. So, what other frames are there? You got Cute, so this is the Itty Bitty. They're a company from Austin, Texas. I think they probably bought the same kind of cookie cutter frame, customized it a little bit. They don't give you the geometry, keep that close to their chest, but they're really cute little bikes. They live up to their name. I really like them. Again, it's very similar geometry. You can kind of tell how slack that seat angle is. These guys use integrated headset bearings, really nice touch, and sliding dropouts, so you can also run at single speed. But again, big problem is that quick release front rear, and also you take a max size tyre of 2.4 inches, which is too small. Then of course there's the Velo Orange Neutrino. This is the classic. I think they may have kicked off that big steel mini velo vibe. They're very cool, lots of guys use these for bike packing and things like that. Got tons of mounts on them. Very, very similar to those other ones that I've shown you. But again, I'm not a fan of the geometry, quick release front and rear. They're also really expensive. Then there's the Melo Velo GFO 50. They do a racer and a Crocs. So these are pretty neat. I think they're essentially the same thing as the Neutrino and the Perfetto. Just a different factory, very similar mounts. I think you can see they're similar geometries. Come in nice colours though. Then we've also got the Black Snow Granite. Again, very, very similar. I think the only difference here really is that it hasn't got sliding dropouts, so these are fixed, which I guess saves a little bit of weight, but I definitely need sliding dropouts, or maybe an EBB or something, because I'm going to be running at single speed at some point. Of course, there's the classic Cannondale Hooligan. It's gone out of manufacture now, so Cannondale stopped producing it. Very cool thing with the lefty, but I think it's primarily for the urban environment. Not really cut out for what I want to use it for. There's the Polygon Zeta 2. I've already done a review on this one. It was good fun to ride, but the build quality was absolutely appalling. And it's also a pretty hideous frame, let's be honest. The favourite one I've found so far is this one. It's the Streisand Boom Boat. This is a chap from, I think it's Denmark or Sweden. He makes some lovely bikes, and this one included. So this fits some really fat rubber front and rear. When it goes into production, he's going to go, I believe, boost front and rear as well. It's got clearance for 2.8 tyres. He's also got some sliding dropouts on there, which is very cool. It's a very similar build to what I'd go for as well, I think. But I just can't get behind that head tube length. To me it looks a bit ugly, but you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all that. I think what I'm going to go for is something that's a bit more classic, like this, with that lower angled top tube. But yeah, let's check it out in the geometry chart. So I've been using Bike Insights for a little while. It allows you to load in geometry for your own custom bikes and then compare it to bikes on the market. So let's look at what I've come up with. So if we have a look at the Strideland, this is the one that I really liked, bar the looks. I loaded in their geometry. So what I want to do is compare it. One of my favourite bikes is the Stooge Speed Bomb. It's been an absolutely fantastic thing. So let's load that in. Let's compare them. The Speed Bomb's a 29er or 650B plus bike, so it's a little bit different. But already you can see that sort of the reach is lower and the top tube is shorter. It's not as slack, but the bottom bracket height is about the same, right? So that looks good. So what are the changes? Stack obviously massively bigger. Reach, okay, that's also bigger. And here, look at that head tube angle, 72 degrees versus 66. 66 might be a bit too aggressive for me, but we can have a play around the side. Let's compare the Strideland to the Neutrino. So the large is their medium, confusingly. Okay, there you go. So you can see the Strideland, which I think is a larger size, they said, with the geometry I pinched. You can see that it's already longer, and the seat tube is a bit steeper. I think they're both probably about the same head tube angle. And I think because the Strideland is more off-road centric, you've obviously got slightly taller bottom bracket. Let's have a look. Where are we? 72, yeah. So you can see the Neutrino is 73 degrees. That's like old school road bike, right? And then seat tube angle 72. Yeah, it's not going to work for me. So I've had a play in the background, and I've mixed bikes up between the Stooge Dirt Bomb and Speed Bomb, same frame geometry, and I've come up with my own. So let's have a look. Right, so here's the Strideland in white, and mine's the one in black. So I've kicked out the head angle a fair bit because I'm going to be primarily using this thing for off-road. I think the chainstay length is about right, so I've copied that. I'm a little bit shorter, so I've dropped the seat tube length, but I've got, you know, gorilla arms, so the reach should be quite similar, hopefully, by the time it's set. So what we've gone for so far is a 66.5 degree head angle. Might still be a bit too aggressive. Seat tube 74 degrees, quite happy with that. I think they're the primary ones. Reach 460 for mine, and then the stack obviously much lower, so that I can get that nice shorter head tube length. So I'm quite happy with that. I might extend the top tube a little bit so that the reach is a little bit more, but I'm not sure. Let's have a play. So good contribution. Then here's my base. I made a V1, which was the actual one, a V2. You guys can find these online as well. So if I click on this, I can edit the geometry. So let's go for a slightly longer reach to compensate for my height. Okay, so 440, I think that's quite comparable to the other bikes that I like. 66.5, yeah, let's leave it like that. Okay, let's go again. So in my mind, I think I'm going to be running a fair few spacers. So I think the head tube angle is kind of negated by that. I'll be running either clunker Stooge bars or Moto Stooge bars. I've got a set of both, so we'll see what works better for the geometry once it arrives. So I'm quite happy with that. It's got the longer front, shorter rear, so I can kick the background nice and easily and have a play. So hopefully it'll be fairly stable. I'm also going to go for some sliding dropouts, so maybe we can extend it a little bit. I think there's 15mm of slide. So if we start with 390, then it can go to 405. But I think that looks good. Let's lock in this geometry and let's get ordering. So let's talk about who's actually going to build this bike for me. There's various frame builders out there, both UK based and abroad, that could do this. So I contacted a few UK builders such as Ted James, who makes some awesome conceptual stuff and his quality is second to none. He's also at Bespoke Bike Show all the time and he makes lovely frames. But chatting with him, it's going to be close to 1500 quid, and that's excluding sliding dropouts and some of the other custom work I want. So really it's going to be over £2,000. One of the other big contenders is called Merino Bikes. So these guys are an outfit from Peru and they do a lot of custom work. They got some off-the-shelf frames too. They've also made some frames for Sick Bikes, if you remember them. Before On1 bought the batch of bikes they never paid for, which I think were called the Hello Dave. So Merino Bikes seems like an option there. Good value, but of course you get what you pay for. I had a look at, Merino quality online and had a look at what people said. If you type into Google Merino Bikes quality and have a look at the last 2 years, ignoring the COVID times, you can't really judge them on that. Every business is screwed. But there's a lot of bits here around the Merino quality. Generally, what they find is you get what you pay for. So frame geometry tends to be spot on to what you've signed off on. And all the other bits and bobs seem okay, the cable routing and so on, all fine. I think the issues stem from A, the communication. I think they've got pretty poor comms by the sounds of things. B, the lead times. Their website I think says 14 weeks at the moment, but when you look online, some people are waiting close to a year after things have been rectified and issues with paint and so on. And I think the last point is the finish. So I think the finish is where they struggle. It looks like they've got issues with paint quality, getting the clear coat evenly spread, and they also paint sometimes some of the threads or inside the head tube and things like that. So they need a bit of finishing off maybe when they arrive. I'm pretty happy with all of that. Let's give it a go, and I can give you guys that live feedback as and when that frame arrives. So let's take a look at the Merino website. So immediately you can see some of their off-the-shelf options here, and they're very competitive. So you can get a full sus single pivot style bike here for $600. I think it excludes the shock. You've got bike packing bits, gravel bikes, and sort of enduro hardtails. And there's lots of customers around the world. All looks pretty promising. So I'm going to look at a custom hardtail frame, and of course the fork that goes with it. So let's build out our frame first. So these are the different materials they offer. Everything from Reynolds 852 to standard 4130 chromoly. I think I'll probably pick something from Reynolds. So what type of frame is it? Well, let's be honest, it's probably cross-country-ish. Let's just tick all mountain. I'd rather it be tough. Wheel size, they don't list 20-inch, but they obviously do them. Tyre clearance. Now I do want to throw a 2.8 in the back if it's available on the market. So I think we'll go for that. Fork length. So let's grab our geometry chart. Let's throw that over there. Okay, so fork length, I think we said is probably 380, 390. Fork length axle to crown, 320. Seat tube angle, I think we said was 74. Head tube type length, so we want a 1 1/8, just a classic one. They only go up to 180. We obviously need something else. I think it's 250-ish. Oh, there we go, 250. But I'm sure they'll come back to me with that, hopefully. Seat tube length is 440. Bottom bracket drop needs to be -35. Chainstay length, we'll go for 390 plus the sliding dropouts. Head tube angle, yeah, I'm going to stick with 66.5. Why not? Reach is 465. Seat post diameter, I'm going to be running a dropper, and obviously most common droppers are in that bigger size, so 31.6mm. Head tube gussets, top tube and down tube, yeah, why not? Seat tube gusset, no thank you, I'll spoil the lines. Bottom bracket, I'm going to go for 73 just so I have a bit more clearance, hopefully, on the chain ring. Chain ring size, well, it's going to have to be probably 42 teeth front, just so we have that right ratio. Brake mounts, it's got AS. Dropout type, right. So I want sliding, and sliding through axle as well. Dropout size, let's go boost. I don't know if it's going to work or how it's going to work with those 20-inch wheels. It's going to be interesting when I build up those wheels with boost hubs onto 20-inch rims, but we'll see what happens. Internal cable routing, absolutely not, can't stand it. Seat tube dropper post, external routing, yes. So we want a port for the dropper. Tubing, right, so this is an interesting one, right? I don't want to go super cheap because it's probably monumentally heavy. Also don't want to go really expensive because the frame's a little smaller and I don't think it's worth it anyway, to be honest. So the question is Reynolds 631 or 520? I think I'm happy with 520. Just in case I really screw up the geometry, then at least I haven't wasted too much money. Right, water bottles. So I think for the mounts I want them on the seat tube and over the down tube. So hopefully that's classic. I'm not sure if there might be any issues with clearance from the dropper post and the bottle mounts, but we'll come to that, I guess. Frame colours, an exciting bit. They offer a few different frame colours down here. Colour palette. Now, I don't do boring colours, so I think I'm going to go for 03. I want kind of a yellowy orange hue. I think that will look lovely with some black merino graphics. So let's go with that. 03 and graphics color. I mean, I just want black, but I don't think that's even an option on here. I'll just put 00, see what they come back with. It's a mandatory field, so I have to put something in. 00. Let's go gloss. Chain guide tabs. Nah, no need. Extras. Right, I'm going to go for another set of sliding dropout inserts. And probably another through axle, just to be on the safe side. Do I want rack mounts, fender mounts? Let's go fender mount. Do I want rack mount? Nah. Front derailleur routing? Nope. Single speed? Nope. Nope. Okay, so what are we telling him? The Mini Velo 20-inch MTB build. I think that will do for now. Front derailleur guide? Nope. We're going to run a 1 by probably 10. I need to work out what fits. I think some of those wide range cassettes and the big derailleurs that go with it won't have the clearance I need. I'll probably go with a Z, but we'll talk about the spec later on. So that's only 435, that's pretty good, right? So add that to cart. What's next? Need to do the fork. Cool, so it's in the basket. 435, lovely. Okay, let's add a fork. So arced crown was 320, rake offset. I'm going to go for 35, I think, just based on the massive rake and offset on the stooge, which really works for me. Type, I want standard unicrown. They do the segmented ones, but I prefer the clean lines of the unicrown. Axle. Yeah, we're definitely going to go 15mm and we're going to go boost because I want to run some fat tyres on the front. Disc brake mount, IS. Rim brake, absolutely not. Steerer 1 1/8. Wheel size 20-inch. Tyre width, let's just go 3.25 inches. Ooh. Inches. Color was a 03. Finish, gloss, and then they give you an option of these different mounts. So I'm going to go for some mounts, probably gravel, because I'm not going to be doing bike packing, I don't think, on this little thing. But I do want to run some extra storage, everything mounts or everything cages on the side, I think. So let's go for that. Bike packing, additional requirements for a mini Velo 20-inch build, so need a very long steerer tube. Okay, that's only $100. Don't know how the guys do this. Let's see what quality it is when it arrives. That's a cart. And then let's crack on. Okay. So I think we're happy with the geometry. I've gone through it over and over in my head, tweaked it a million times. But let's just get it ordered. You'll notice that the fork only comes in 4130 chromoly. Right, so postage, we're changing it to the UK. I think it was $245. There we go. Update. Yeah, so $230 plus $535 for frame fork, $765. So that is cheaper than the cute itty bitty, the granite, black snow, and all the other bikes once I've imported them with those fees from abroad. So actually this is very, very competitive. I get the through axles as well, still have the sliding dropouts, and I get my own geometry and my own color. So fingers crossed something decent turns up, but you know, this is all about taking the journey. Let's go to the checkout. Okay, the boring bit, I'll stop the video while I enter this and I'll pick up with you guys in a minute. Okay, so I've entered my personal details. At the bottom it just confirms your geometry, frame and fork, shipping details, and then pay after confirmation. Not entirely sure what that means. Let's take a look. I think there's a deposit to pay. So see what happens. Okay, so there we go. Thank you, your order has been received. Date, time, order number, pay after confirmation. So once you send your order, we'll review it, contact you to check every detail for payment. So I assume what they're going to do is review our geometry, review the fork material measurements, make sure they sense check it, I suppose. And that's that. Oh, and I've also received an email. Thank you for your order. Just to let you know, we've received your order, and then number, date, and again, it goes through everything I've entered. So far, so good. So I'll keep you guys updated. Let's see what happens as and when things start moving.
A few moments later.
So things have moved really quickly with Merino. A chap called Ron reached out and he emailed me straight back after submitting my order. He came up with an initial drawing based on my geometry. There was a few issues with it. You know, they had some limitations on their geometry chart and things like that. So I went back with some feedback. The drawings got revised, started looking better. I noticed there was still a couple issues. Again, flurry of emails. Came back with something that looks a lot more promising. So this is the final drawing. I was really happy with this geometry. You know, it's got steep seat angle, slack head angle, a ton of reach, nice long top tubes. It's got those sliding dropouts I want, boost front and rear spacing. I've also added front rack, and it's also got fender mounts. And then they confirm the details down the bottom here, colors, dimensions, things like that. And then they ask for a $200 deposit. At this point, everything's locked in. I sent my $200 deposit. It was all confirmed. I'm in the build queue, and they just reiterate the fact that nothing may change at this point. So we're locked in with the spec, the color, everything. I've got a queue in the manufacturing build piece, so let's see what happens from here, guys. I'll keep you posted. Tune in next time. Cheers all.